Today, let's talk about grief. Unfortunately, at least everyone has or will experience a major loss at a certain point in their lifetime. That's the bad news. According to the dictionaries, grief is defined as an intense feeling of sadness as a result of a major loss. This may be the loss of a loved one, a job, a pet, the loss of oneself, or even loss of property. According to the Swiss-American psychiatrist Kubler Ross, there are 5 steps of grief, and these include denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally, acceptance. Everyone grieves differently, and that's why we'll be talking about the different types of grief. The first kind of grief we'll be talking about is anticipatory grief. This is usually grieving before the actual loss has happened. For example, if you had a loved one who has just been diagnosed with a terminal illness and you're sure that in the next few days, months, or years, there will be no more, you might start feeling that sadness, that major loss, and that is called anticipatory grief. The second kind of grieving is just the normal grief, and it's also called common grief, where one goes through the normal steps of grief after a major loss, and this includes the denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then finally acceptance. There is also complicated grief. Few people usually experience this kind of grief, and some of the ways this can be experienced is through grief avoidance. For example, you might find that someone may hide the clothes of a deceased person so that they just don't see, or they just try to avoid situations in which they may find themselves thinking of the person whom they have lost or the major loss they have gone through. Other people tend to grieve for longer than expected. And this is different from delayed grief, where one avoids grieving during the actual grieving period. For example, you find that when you have a major loss, as other people are trying to come into terms with what have happened, this person may go on with a day-to-day activity. They can go to school, they can go to work, they can go to shopping, they can just go on as if nothing has happened. And then there is disenfranchised grief. And this is a kind of grief that can't be openly acknowledged, so you find that you tend to receive little support as you grieve. This includes losses like loss of part of your body, such as amputation after a severe accident, or a disease such as cancer or diabetes foot. There is also loss of non-relatives. For example, if there is a teacher you loved and unfortunately they died, you might not actually be given that time or listening ear to grieve, because it's believed that you are not related to them so closely, so it's not really justifiable, although you're supposed to grieve, to actually come into terms with the loss. Also, ex-spouses, extramarital lovers, abortions, and miscarriages. These are griefs that actually are not seen in the society as major losses, so as much as you're grieving, no one actually acknowledges it. When grieving, there is no formula or time frame or time limit, but the major goal is to accept your loss, allow yourself to feel the pain, adapt to life without what you've lost. That is if it's someone, if it's a pet, if it's a job, if it's yourself, you have to find a way to come into terms with that, and then you just withdraw the emotional energy. And I'm going to give you some of the coping skills that may help you accomplish the coping. These coping skills will help you accomplish the grieving. You can cope through religion, as religion has been found to provide answers for losses. For example, some religions explain death as things better are going to happen for the person who has gone to another world, or the deceased has gone to a better place. So like this might give you hope that you'll meet in another world. You can talk to your psychologist, your counselor, or your confidant. Although this may sound cliche, we always say that a problem shared is half solved. So you can talk to someone and they may help you with the whole grieving process. You can express your feelings in ways you feel that you're being heard. This can be through art, through fashion, through actually writing down your emotions, provided you're just expressing yourself in a way you feel heard. The major goal is just to feel relief and to just move on in life after the major loss. When it comes to grief in children, unlike in the old days when kids would see their kin ill and even die at home, nowadays kids are mainly protected from bereavement. Adults may want to protect their children from the pain and suffering. They may tend to exclude them in any plans and rituals regarding to the loss. So you find that when the adults are grieving, the children are maybe taken to another place, to another house, to another distant relative, so that they are not part of the grieving process. This avoidance can lead to confusion and anxiety in children. So please, let's not exclude children from grieving.